Students, here we are again. Some more notes to go through with you. If you were in class with me, you have gone through this slide, and if you haven't, I'd like you to take notes up to this point. There is a good, it's actually just a Word document that I have posted on Haiku to kind of go through the ear diagram. Make sure you take a look at that and understand really the parts of the ear and how the sound travels through the ear. When we're in class, you'll get that benefit of really understanding the cochlea, probably the most important part of the ear, and how we understand pitch. But actually, that's what I want to go on to this next part now. For those of you at home, you'll be watching a video. I would actually prefer you to watch it after you take these notes. It doesn't really matter. It's a crash course video, and John Green, Hank Green, can't remember which one, does a really good job of understanding how we hear pitch. So when we're talking about perceiving sound, we need to talk about hearing loss, just like when we talk about with vision loss, or things like color blindness and things. We have two types of hearing loss that I really want you to understand and know. The first one is conduction deafness. Now, conduction deafness is definitely less serious and it's less common. But this is when there's damage to the bones of the middle ear. You know, those three bones, the hammer, stirrup, and anvil. This can be corrected. Those are the smallest three bones in the entire body, but they can be corrected. Usually it would happen because of like a blow to the head or something like that. Conduction deafness is less common, less serious. And it can be corrected more easily. Nerve deafness is more serious, and this is actually the more common one. This is when there's damage to the cochlea's hair cell receptors. Now, when we talk a little bit, and you'll understand more about the cochlea, the way it's kind of like formed around, it looks like a snail. So when we talk about nerve deafness, oftentimes nerve deafness is related to hereditary, to a genetic inheritance that we might have, but it also can be because of damage from hearing too loud of noises, prolonged exposure to noise. It could be disease. We'll talk a little bit about Meniere's disease when we talk about the semicircular canals, just with normal aging, things like that. Now, I'm not sure if this is really relevant anymore, but that picture right there of that baby, that's a good mama. Now, she is really excited. You can tell that this is probably a rockin' place right now. This is Michael Phelps, at that time, his fiance and their little baby. And his wife was at the Olympics cheering him on. And a baby that small is going to have really, really sensitive ears. And luckily, they were taking the proper precautions to save his ears. I got to tell you a little story. Oh, I felt so terrible. I was at a race, this dirt race. Imagine that. I was at a dirt race this summer, and there was a baby who was a tiny, tiny baby with no headphones on, no earphones on, and I so badly wanted to say to that mom, I don't think you realize what you're doing to this child's ears. That is really, really a dangerous thing. Have you ever experienced ringing in your ears? Ringing in your ears is kind of the signal that those little hairs in the cochlea that you wrote about when we talked about the cochlea, those little hairs in the cochlea are not happy. Think of it like, do you know what a stiletto heel is? Think of like a stiletto heel stepping on the palm of your hand. That could really hurt. Think of about a real chunky, like a boot heel, like a cowboy boot heel or something, stepping on the palm of your hand. Which one is probably going to hurt more? It's probably going to be the stiletto heel. And so we can sometimes think of those hairs as like little carpet fibers. And I'll give you a little image here in a second, what we can think about. But I want to talk about like where we're experiencing hearing loss. We're talking in decibels here. So a normal conversation, not with me, I've got a very loud voice, but a normal conversation is about 60 decibels. A busy street corner where there's diesel trucks and maybe cars honking and just lots of like motors running or stereos going, that's going to be at least 80 decibels. Where we start to have hearing loss is right between 80 and 90 decibels. A subway train at 20 feet away, 100. Look at as we're getting higher and higher. Prolonged exposure above 85 decibels produces hearing loss. Loud thunder, a rock band. I know a lot of us use earbuds, myself included. I'm not taking myself out of this equation. Earbuds are really, really tough on our ears because they are directing the sound right into our ear canal. That's really, really tough on our ears. So, whatever you can do to save your hearing, I want you to understand that, just like in the action potential, when we have this intensity and how much action potentials get sent down to help us experience the sensation or whatever it happens to be, this is kind of the same way with sound. Our brain interprets the amount or the loudness by how many of those hair cells are activated. And so, if you do you have a grandparent or somebody who's maybe hard of hearing? To them, loud sounds still sound loud, but it's the quiet, soft sounds that need to be amplified. They can't hear that, but loud sounds still sound loud. If you ever walk into maybe grandma and grandpa's house and the TV is just like really, really loud, that's because the quiet sounds might need to be amplified. But if they're hearing something like a jet plane at 500 feet, that still sounds loud. I want to give you this kind of image. Think about in the cochlea. When we are experiencing damage to our hearing, when you have a really hard, heavy piece of furniture on a piece of carpet, let's say you're going to move your dresser or something to a different part of the room. You're going to move your dresser, and have you ever noticed how then the carpet fibers are kind of like smashed down? Like you still have carpet fibers, right? But they're really like you've got this puffy kind of nice carpet, but you move your dresser and now the carpet fibers are like really mashed down, and you can vacuum and you can try to, bring those carpet fibers back. That's kind of the same idea that we're doing to our hearing. Once that cochlea, once those hair fibers are really kind of smashed down, there's not a lot that we can do to bring them back. There's some things we can do to help them, but once your hearing is gone, you don't really get it back. You can't really repair and go back. And so you might never rebound from the hearing loss that you've experienced. All right. So this is what I want you to watch the video on. And we're going to talk a little bit about perceiving pitch. Now here we go. We've got one more theory. The idea of place theory is that different frequencies of sound vibrate in different places in the cochlea. So depending on where the sound vibrates, those little hairs on the cochlea, depends on the pitch and the sound that we hear. Higher pitched sound is recognized in the brain when it's vibrated at the beginning, or remember what I said, it was kind of like a snail shell at the beginning or the base of the cochlea's membrane. Low pitched tones, and we'll talk about that on the next slide. So when we talk about place theory, I want you to think about place theory in high pitched. So it's just where those cells, where those receptor cells in the cochlea are activated. And that kind of helps us understand and perceive pitch. There's I could probably have shown you on the other side, but I put a PowerPoint. That's the word I'm looking for. A hearing PowerPoint up on a side. It's just like a separate one to see if you can hear the pitch. There's different frequencies, and for me, I'm getting up there in age. I can't hear them at all. In fact, oftentimes I have to go and ask other people, "Can you hear this?" Now, it's not because it's not because I can't hear, but it is because I'm getting old. It'd be interesting when we're in class and I play this for you, if you do it for yourself at home, if you can hear this pitch, if you can hear this sound. So when we talk about frequency theory, this is better for understanding low-pitched sounds. Okay, so this is where it's going to, and the crash course video will help. But this is a better one for understanding low-pitched sounds, because we know that Individual neurons can't fire faster than 1,000 times per second. So therefore, the frequency theory doesn't actually tell us the whole story when we're talking about low pitched sounds. So then we rely on what's called the volley principle. And the volley principle is this like rapid back and forth neural firing, like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So then we can understand low pitched sounds. So then we can achieve a combined frequency above 1,000 waves per second, and that will help us to perceive pitch. Um, Let's see. I don't think there was anything else that I needed you to know about the volley principle. As I said, the crash course video will help make this a little bit more understandable. So remember, place theory is for high-pitched sounds. Frequency theory is for low-pitched sounds. But it's all about where that stimulation, where the activation of those little membranes, those little hair cells, if you will, on the cochlea are located, where that gets stimulated. So that's all I need to talk to you about for the frequency theory or perceiving pitch and hearing loss. Until we meet again, talk to you later.